the hardest things for me, one of my pet peeves, is when somebody who I'm just getting to know makes assumptions about me without giving me the chance to really tell them about myself. I've gotten to the point now when I'm introducing myself or I'm getting to know someone new, I try to avoid labels. I try to not say, oh, hey, I'm Jimmy, I do this for my career, or I got this degree in school, or I'm, this is where I live, I'm from California. These kinds of labels. Because a lot of people will kind of make generalized assumptions about me, about my character, my interests, based on these labels. They'll say things like, oh, you're from California, so you must have certain political beliefs, or oh, you went to school for this degree, well, so you must have these sorts of interests. That may or may not really be true of me as a person. So I try not to use labels because I'm trying to help myself have a chance to tell them who I really am, what I'm really about, what am I really interested in, what are my true thoughts. But it's hard to avoid labels altogether because there's this one label that I can't get away from. It's this label of Christian. I'm not going to tell people that I'm not a Christian. And one of the goals as a Christian is to help try to spread this good news, try to tell other people about Christianity. So of course I got to tell people I'm a Christian, but even this label will carry with it assumptions. People will make assumptions about my political views, about what do I do for entertainment, what's my character, am I judgmental, am I loving, without really getting a chance to know me. But hey, what am I going to do? I'm not going to tell people I'm not a Christian, so I'm kind of stuck. At some point, I've got to just tell people I'm a Christian and hope that they give me a fair shot to be heard, and sometimes they will and sometimes they won't. But I don't really see this just from people outside the church. I actually see this a lot even within Christianity. I've seen this with other Christians. I see this on social media all the time. Two Christians who I'm sort of familiar with their beliefs. One person will say something on social media like, the church is a loving place. And the other Christian will come back and say, hey, the church is full of sin and hurt and pain. And now they're arguing. Even though I actually kind of know that they both hold a lot of views in common. The guy saying the church is loving probably doesn't think the church is perfect, and the guy saying the church is imperfect probably doesn't think that the church is not at all loving. But now we're like getting at each other's throats because we're very quick to assume based on a single statement the totality of another person's views. One of the ways I saw this that always sticks in my mind is I remember being in Salt Lake City outside of a Mormon temple, and there was these Christians, the group of Christians I was with, we were trying to share the message, the gospel message, right? We have great intentions. We want to share the truth of Jesus with people that we think are missing it, the LDS believers. And so we're outside their oldest standing temple, and we're talking to people, just average Joe LDS believer who's going to and from the temple grounds. But sometimes I would hear Christians, they'd go up to the average person who's going in and they'd say things like, you Mormons are wrong because you believe that there's many gods, and the Bible says there's only one God, so you're wrong. And they probably have a point. The LDS church does have teachings that would suggest there's many gods. But the average person that's just going there to do whatever, sometimes they say things like, I don't believe there's more than one God. What are you talking about? And then there'd be this weird kind of standoff where the Christian would be saying, yes, you do. You're a Mormon. You believe there's many gods. And the LDS believer would be saying, the Mormon, they'd be saying, well, no, I don't. I don't believe there's more than one God. See, the Christian was they saw that this person was associated with a certain faith system, the LDS church, the Latter-day Saints church, and they just assumed, oh, you must hold to all the church's beliefs. Now, this person going to and from, they may not hold all the beliefs. They may not know they're part of the church, but they didn't realize that there's scriptures that indicate there's more than one God. Who knows where this individual is coming from? But because the Christians just assumed, oh, this person's a Mormon, therefore they are exactly like this, they weren't really able to communicate effectively. So often we can be talking past each other. We can be making judgments about one another based on these very surface level descriptions, these labels, without really getting to know someone. There's been people that I've talked to that identify themselves as Christians, and then the more I talk to them, I realize we don't have any beliefs in common, or very few. They might believe that there's a God in a spiritual sense, almost like a deistic sense where God exists, but does he have anything to do with your life? And who knows what they knew about Jesus. And then another person I talked to who's a Christian, and maybe we shared almost all of our beliefs. I think that what I'm trying to learn, I wish I was better at this, but what I'm trying to learn for myself is to get better at asking questions and getting to know someone a little bit deeper before drawing conclusions about what's right and wrong in their beliefs or what I need to do. If I'm trying to communicate the gospel to someone, I'm starting to realize that I need to get to know them a little bit more. It's not enough for somebody to say, I'm an atheist, and me go, okay, I know exactly what I need to tell them as a Christian to get this atheist to see the truth that there is a God. I kind of need to take a step back and actually ask a couple more questions like, oh, you say you're an atheist. Well, what do you mean by that? Or you say you're a Christian, or you say you're a Muslim, you say whatever. What do you mean by that? What is it that you really believe? And then ask other questions like, well, why do you believe that? If for the Mormon who's going to the temple, if they said, oh, I only believe in one God, and we might ask something like, well, why do you believe that? They might say something like, well, the Bible says, I mean, it's pretty clear, the Bible says there's only one God. Well, that's great, because now we have some common ground. Hey, I believe the Bible, you believe the Bible, we both believe there's only one God. That's great, but there's a problem in that you're currently part of a faith that believes there's many gods. So where do you see, let's talk about the tension there. Now we have some common ground, and we're speaking to the true ideas of the person. I think what's so hard is in our society today, I think there's a lot of terms and a lot of labels that could have multiple meanings. And if you and I are using the same terminology or the same label, but we mean completely different things, then we could talk past each other. I could say I'm a Christian, you could say you're a Christian, and we're like, yeah, we're on the same team, but we may or may not really agree if we never discuss what it means. So I think that if we're going to try to communicate effectively, the goal here is that as a Christian, I want to tell the truth of Jesus to others. I think if the goal is to communicate effectively, I probably should take some time to get to know the audience as well as I can. Sometimes we're going to be able to know people super well. Sometimes we're not, but I want to do my best to get to know the audience I'm speaking to. That way, when I'm communicating, I can really address where they're at, really address the actual person I'm speaking to, rather than making assumptions, which if I'm wrong, if I make the wrong assumption, I might completely talk past someone. We want to have true, deep, meaningful conversation, because the goal here is to get someone to hear the gospel, but really not just hear it, but get to a place where they can accept it as true.